Greetings one and all. Super Sundays here from the Holy City, Elon Moreh Shechem. We are on the 16th day of Cheshvan, 5785. We are continuing. This is part 2 of our amazing revelation by the Arizal in regards to the time of redemption for the Jewish people and the fall of the nations. Okay, so continuing on, we had the last question of the first class that we did was, don't we go according to Beit Hillel? So it's very nice what Beit Shammai says, but according to the law, we go according to Beit Hillel. We light candles, one in an ascending and not descending manner. So we see from here, that it seems like, okay, it's very nice, the ideas that were given by Shammai, but still, the law is like Shammai. And we dealt with that. We are continuing on this line. Amazingly, we have a dispute in the tractate of Megillah regarding the holiday of Purim. Once again, very interesting because there are 2 rabbinical holidays, of course, Hanukkah and Purim. So we know that, of course, there's a connection because there are only 2 that are rabbinical. And there's a dispute. The after blessing, when we read the scrolls of Esther, what is the after blessing that we say? So one of the rabbis, one of the sages says that we thank God for saving us, saving the Jewish people. The other opinion is we thank God for all of the vengeance that he took out on our enemies and what he did to them. Very diametrically opposed ways to look at the holiday and the reading of the scroll of Esther. Are we concentrating on our victory, or are we putting the spotlight on the defeat and the downfall of our adversaries? That is a big question. So what is the conclusion? An amazing conclusion. The conclusion of the Talmud is that we say both. Both of them are correct. We have to, on one hand, we have to look at the salvation that took place for us, the Jewish people. We have to thank God for our salvation. On the other hand, it is not complete without thanking God and spotlighting the defeat and the suffering of our adversaries and our enemies. So we say both. Now this is an amazing idea because we just saw in the last part of our class, first part of the class, last part of the first part, we saw that there's definitely room for the opinion of Shammai, even according to some Jewish law sources. And of course, we know, as far as ideas are concerned, everything it says in the Talmud, both of them are correct. Both of them are divine. Both of them, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim, they are both given, these messages are true. So this is an amazing boost we have on Purim, an amazing boost for what's going on at the time of Hanukkah, that just like there were 2 opinions on what to focus during Purim, focus on the Jewish salvation or the focus on the downfall and vengeance against the nations, we say both of them are correct. So we, in our blessing, check it out, open up your prayer book, go to the after blessing of the scrolls of Esther. You'll see that there's a fuse of these two ideas, our salvation and the downfall and suffering of the nations who tried to annihilate us. One of the authors of the Tosafot, he lived in the time of Maimonides. His name was Rabbi Rabbeinu Yonatan of the city of Lunil. He writes that just like we say in the Haggadah of Passover, in the Dayenu, it would have been enough if God only did this for us. How much more so that he did more. So we say in this song of Dayenu that it would have been enough if God just took us out of Egypt. He would have just saved the Jewish people. If we ever really think about it and contemplate it, the thought, it's really amazing. God, if he wanted to, he'd just take us out and it would have been a very beautiful ending. No Egyptians would have suffered, no women, children, no orphans. Why did God set upon the Egyptians vengeance? He could have just could have saved the Jewish people and taken us out. No, but he also afflicted and brought down upon the Egyptians vengeance. So that is the idea, that God is showing us the way, just like he too could have just brought the salvation without any interaction with the nations, just bring us out safely from bondage. No, God shows us the way, that he also brought upon the Egyptians the 10 plagues. And also, of course, at the sea. There were tremendous amount of suffering going on when they tried to annihilate the Jewish people on the 7th day of Passover. The commentator, the Khatam Sofer, he says the following, that the reason behind the candle lighting on Hanukkah of Beit Shammai is remembering God's vengeance against the nations. This is similar to Sukkot, he writes, when we experience also the downfall of the nations by the descending order of the bulls. So there we have it, a fuse of both ideas. Now this is really amazing. This has to be some kind of prophecy that reached a contemporary. Rabbi Moshe Wolfson, in one of his great books titled Emunati Techa, on the subject of Hanukkah, page 120, he really hits it out of the park. And as Tomer Devorah likes to say, the ball is still traveling. He says, listen to this. Just like on Purim, we fuse together these two ideas. On one hand, the salvation of the Jewish people. On the second hand, we bring in also the downfall of the nations. We see the same idea, even according to the school of Hillel. Whoa! You know, we were talking about how can this be? Okay, very beautiful, Shammai. But we go to Beit Hillel. Rabbi Wolfson says, no prob whatsoever. Even according to Beit Hillel, we have this idea of the downfall of the nations. What? How is that? I thought Beit Hillel represents only the ascent of the Jewish people. No. Because on the first night, according to the camp of Hillel, we have one candle lit, but 7 are dark. The 7 that are dark represent the 7 nations. The seven nations are a microism of the 70 nations. So, amazingly, so the camp of Hillel brings down this idea, brings down this concept of the nations, okay, beginning to descend. So on the first night, we have 7 empty candles representing the nations of the world, the 770. No connection to Chabad. And on the second night, their strength declines. There's only 6 left, 6 dark candles that the darkness represents, the nations represent darkness. And then 5, 4, 3, 2, until there are no nations left. The defeat of the 70 nations. Whoa. Okay. To bring this idea, amazingly, it says in the Midrash, in this second volume of Batei Midrash, there's an amazing piece that says there will be 3 wars that will take place in the month of Tevet, the 10th month, that we spoke about, how in the book, in the chapter of Noah, when he speaks about in the 10th month that the great waters will begin receding, the Midrash brings down that there will be three battles between the Jewish people and the nations during the month of Tevet, on the 1st of Tevet, 10th of Tevet, and the last day of Tevet. So all of this comes together, amazing spiritual information, how it's on page 438. Volume 2, Batei Midrashot, page 438, yes. So we see the importance of the verse in Noah telling us how the nations will descend, peaking in the month of Tevet, which of course is the closing time of Hanukkah, where there will be the battles of the Jewish people against the 70 nations. Our second question that we asked, isn't Tevet, the 10th month on the Jewish calendar, isn't it a month of calamities for the Jewish people? Very, very true. We know that we have 3 fast days in a row. We never have such an occurrence during the Jewish calendar year. 3 fast days. On the 8th, some righteous people, special righteous people fast on the 8th day, remembering the tragedy when the Torah was translated into Greek. Darkness was brought down to the world for 3 days. The world was in darkness. That's the night when the lights went out in Georgia, but that's 3 nights. And then we have the 9th day, where there are sources that said, what happened on the 9th day of Tevet? Why do we have to fast? Once again, this is for individuals. This is not for the community. This is not for the Jewish nation as a whole. This is represents the birth of JC. And of course, we're familiar with the 10th, which is a public fast, which represents the beginning of the siege on Jerusalem, ending 17 months later with the destruction of the first temple. So yes, it is definitely true that the month of Tevet is traditionally a thumbs down month for the Jewish people. However, amazingly, Did we ever think of this beautiful point? There is no holiday on the Jewish calendar, check it out, or your money back. There is no Jewish holiday which surfs its way into another month. Holidays belong in one month. Passover is during the month of Nisan. Shavuot is during the month of Sivan. Every holiday has its month. There are no holidays that spread over 2 calendar months, except for one. You got it. Why is that? Did it haphazardly happen? There is no chance in the world. Everything is guided from God. And so to here, in order to be able to turn around this evil cycle that we see during the month of Tevet, the 10th month, God gave us a tremendous gift, that the holiday of Hanukkah, the only holiday which goes from the month of Kislev and it sneaks its way in to the beginning 2 days, sometimes 3 days of the month of Tevet. This is amazing. Why is that? In order to turn the month around. We know that everything, if you look in the source, everything is good at the source. We, however, turned the good into bad. But if we're able to dig deep down, we will see the source. And that's why it says that all of these fast days will turn in not to regular days, but to days of tremendous joy. Because every single month, the core, the root, is good, is a blessing. Unfortunately, we turned it around, and it has become a curse. But in its source, in its root, we have the power through the days of Hanukkah, through the holiday of Hanukkah, to turning the month around. And that is why it says in the Midrash that we quoted that the downfall of the nations will happen on Hanukkah, and then the 10th day, and then the last day of Tevet. This is amazing. So we can understand when it says in Noah, talks about the waters diminishing, the nations diminishing, and the Jewish people arising. This is exact. This is the way it will be. And God willing, this is the way we will see before our very eyes in the next coming weeks. Our third question: doesn't the Talmud speak about the 70 bulls that are brought on behalf of the nations by the Jewish people during the holiday of Sukkot? Isn't this something positive? Isn't this for their benefit? So where do we come up with all of these? Where do we come up to all of these evil, the downfall, something negative towards the nations? It seems like it's all thumbs up. Well, Rashi on Numbers 29:18, he brings down from a midrash, from Lekach Tov, in the portion of Pinchas. He brings down the 70 nations and their numbers descending, thus a sign of their end, destruction. During the temple, it protected them from calamities. Very interesting. Rashi brings us down in the name of the Midrash that there's basically two sides to this coin of the 70 nations. On one hand, it represents their downfall. However, there was a period of history where it represented a benefit, an atonement, a blessing to the nations. So there is no contradiction here. It's a coin, two sides to it. Rashi on the Talmud, Tractate Sukkot, page 55, side A. This bringing of the 70 bulls on behalf of the nations represents that there should be rain for the nations. Comes along the head of the Jewish court of a city called Kozyglów in Poland, and he gives an out-of-this-world explanation. To explain, this is asked by many of the commentators. On one hand, we have sources that speak about the downfall, the ending of the domination of the nations. On the other hand, we see sources that this was a blessing or an atonement for the nation. Make up your mind. Listen to this. So we said in the name of Rashi, there is no contradiction. It depends what time in history was this a blessing and what time has it become a curse. But here, listen to this, amazing. The goal of the nations are to humble themselves before the Jewish nation. If they are able to humble themselves before the Jewish nation, they will gain tremendous blessings via the Jewish nation, which represented the 70 bulls on a positive note. But there's a condition. We said there's two sides. It's a blessing, it's a curse. Make up your mind. It all depends on the nations. If they are able to put themselves second, if they are able to humble themselves before the Jewish people, they will receive tremendous blessing and light upon themselves via the Jewish people. However, as we've seen throughout history, if they refuse to humble themselves and understand who keeps the world going, who's in charge, God and His nation, the people of Israel, if they understand that, they will be blessed. And that's the opinions we heard about there'll be rain, etc. However, if they refuse, then they will be cursed. So on Sukkot, this is a wake-up call for the nations of the world. This is a look in the mirror time. Remember, you choose your destiny. Are you going to humble yourself before God and His people, the Jewish people? You will be blessed. The 70 bulls represent for these individuals a blessing. If not, if your religion is the religion of truth, and everyone must convert to your religion, and the Jewish people are subservient to Islam, to Christianity, whatever it might be, the 70 bulls represent the decline and eventual downfall, destruction of the nations and their domination of the world and the Jewish people. So there. Last question. Is there any proof, facts on the ground during the holiday of Hanukkah that connect us back to the holiday of Sukkot? Don't forget, we're on a journey here. Our journey began on Sukkot, and it continues for 70 days until the holiday, the end of the holiday of Sukkot. So from the end of Sukkot till the end of Hanukkah, we have one continuous line and a cycle and a circle. And every single day represents another falling, another decline, another angle of their fall of the nations of the world, of their control. Every day that goes by, we're chipping away at that control. And the answer to this, do we find information during Hanukkah that bring us back to Sukkot? A resounding yes is our answer. Listen to this. In the Jewish law book called Aruch HaShulchan, he asks a question which is asked by many commentators. Why in the world is Hanukkah 8 days? It should be 7 days. We know that they had enough oil for 1 day, so the miracle was for 7. Why are we celebrating 8 days? I mean, we know that them Jews, they love celebrating and eating and, taking some days off. Got it. Celebrate. But still, so the Aruch HaShulchan, he writes in the Code of Jewish Law, this could be found in chapter 670, Law 5. The reason why Hanukkah is 8 days, we understand that the miracle was 7. So why did we add on a day? We added on a day to remember that one of the evil decrees of the Syrian Greek Empire against the Jewish people was that they were not allowed to celebrate the 8 days of Hanukkah. And therefore we add a day. These are the amazing words of the Aruch HaShulchan, that he shows us a tremendous connection between Sukkot and Hanukkah. And it's interesting to note that if I was a Greek, there's probably a million other decrees that I would have given before thinking about Sukkot. That would probably be the last thing on my mind. So it's very interesting that somewhere deep in their subconscious, the Gentiles understood then the basic judgment, the judgment period of which we go through on Sukkot. They wanted to eliminate the Jewish merit during this period of time. They understood the importance of the holiday of Sukkot as far as the outcome of the nations versus the Jewish people. What will be the destiny during the upcoming year for the Jewish nation and for the nations? Source number 2, in the book of the Maccabees, part 2, chapter 1, verses 8 and 9. It says the following. Listen to this. This wasn't during the month of Kislev when we celebrate Hanukkah. The Maccabees celebrated 8 days, remembering the fact that they could not celebrate the holiday the previous year of Sukkot, as they were fighting underground. Thus, they took 3 out of the 4 species of Sukkot and celebrated. Now, this has to be one of the most bizarre scenarios you can imagine, folks. We're talking about we're beginning the holiday of Hanukkah, and we whip out the three out of the four species. More so, we know that the Jewish people minted a coin to commemorate this period of history, and on that coin we see the four species. But buddy, you got the holidays mixed up. We're on Hanukkah. We're celebrating Hanukkah. What in the world was going through the minds of the Maccabees, of the Hashmonaim, when on Hanukkah, the first day of Hanukkah, they're whipping out the three out of the four species? That seems like something bizarre. No, because the last holiday of the year is Sukkot, and they were not able to celebrate that holiday. Any other holiday you could celebrate underground, but Sukkot, of course, you can't be underground. You need to be above ground because you have to be in a sukkah. So therefore, they could not celebrate the last holiday. The last holiday of the year is Sukkot, and therefore they wanted to remember that holiday. So once again, we see facts on the ground. We see a tremendous connection, historical connection in the book of the Maccabees between the holiday of Sukkot and the holiday of Hanukkah, and also that minted coin. This is really mind-boggling. We see in Leviticus, the end of the portion of the holidays in Amor. We're talking about chapters 23 and 24 in the portion of Amor. All of the holidays are given and their dates. Of course, as we said, as we mentioned previously, the last holiday of the year is Sukkot. The last holiday of the year is Sukkot. So, when we finish the holiday of Sukkot, so we've gone through all the holidays. We started with Passover, Shavuot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. We finished. If you look at the next verse, in chapter 24, the next verse, what does it say? God tells Moses to take pure oil. Woo! Folks, the ball is still traveling. This is an amazing hint. This is alluding to the holiday right after Sukkot. We have a mention of olive oil. The next verse. So, the commentators, the Rokeach, and of course the Balaturim bring down on this verse that this is alluding to the holiday, the rabbinical holiday of Hanukkah. And that's why it comes after the verse. It comes, first of all, right after all of the Jewish holidays that are in one chapter. And then it brings down, if we would look to the next verse, we'll see a connection, of course, to Purim. But maybe we'll keep that for Purim. So, summarizing this point, yes, there are tremendous connections we see between the holiday of Sukkot and Hanukkah. It appears in the Code of Jewish Law by the Aruch HaShulchan, 8 days, and it should really be 7 days, remembering the 8 days of Sukkot that the Syrian Greeks decreed against. We remember what it says in the book of Maccabees, that they took 3 out of the 4 species. Why 3, not 4? They were probably worried about there's a commandment in the Torah not to add on to mitzvot. So their Sukkot was already over. So if they took 4, we say take 2, but if you take 4, so that might be a prohibition of adding on to the Torah, as if we're doing the mitzvah again. So they just wanted to show the spiritual connection. So they brought 3. And then we talked about the coin that was during the time of the Maccabees, and the liberation of the land of Israel and Jerusalem with the 4 species on it. even though we're at the time of Hanukkah, 2 months later, 70 days later, and then last but not least, the Rokeach and the Balaturim, who bring in a tremendous verse right after all the holidays, which connect us to the holiday of Hanukkah. In conclusion here, the judgment of Rosh Hashanah, it's a beginning. It begins on Rosh Hashanah, and then it continues throughout Sukkot. But it doesn't end at Sukkot, the Arizal tells us. The Rebbe of Afta tells us it continues throughout Hanukkah. 70 days between Sukkot and Hanukkah. This is alluding to the descending control, domination of the nations over Israel, one level each day. This lesson was conveyed to us by the school of Shammai, how he lit Hanukkah candles similar to the order that the bulls were brought on the holiday of Sukkot. The war of Gog and Magog, Armageddon, the war of the 70 nations against the Jewish people. This occurs in the month of Tevet, beginning on the first day of Tevet, which of course is Hanukkah. Their downfall will be in the merit, via the merit of Hanukkah and our positive judgment. That's why, according to our tradition, the last day of Hanukkah is the last day of judgment, which began on Rosh Hashanah. It's called Zot Hanukkah. It even received a special name. But believe it or not, you think you heard it all here in the last two series? No. Comes the Zohar Chadash, and he really hits it out of the park. Ball still traveling. Also during the month of Tevet will be the downfall of the Erev Rav, of the multitudes who are within the Jewish people, the enemy within the Jewish people. That is an amazing point. So their downfall, just like it says in Noah, that the waters, which represents the nations, represents the Erev Rav, the multitudes, it will recede during the 10th month on the first day. That is also true with our enemies within the Erev Rav. And folks, all you have to do is put on your glasses or look out your window or look at your computer. When we see what is going on in the world, we said in the first class, we mentioned that of course there are opportune times and we have to take advantage of the opportunity. However, if we don't take advantage, God forbid, they could be the worst of times. So when the great ones spoke, the great Rabbi spoke about times of redemption, they were not fooling us. They were not deceiving us. They were correct 100%. But we were not worthy of bringing the redemption. But when we look today and see what's going on, the turmoil with the elections in America, if we think that the America will be once again united, oh man, we have something coming to us. We have an America that is in turmoil from every angle. They're not making America great again. We are seeing the downfall of America. We are looking in Europe, we are looking at wars that are taking place between Russia, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, South Korea, North Korea. If we look out in Israel, in the land of Israel, if we just look at current events, can we not see the downfall of the nations and the arise God willing, of the Jewish people during these days between Sukkot and Hanukkah. May we be worthy. May we take advantage. Every single day counts. Every day is another level of bringing down the domination of the nations. I like that rhyme. Dominations of the nations. So each one of us, myself first, let's look in the mirror and see how we could participate in this year, making the words of the Arizal 452 years ago, and the words of Rabbi Avram Yoshua Heschel, the after Rebbe, 250 years ago, come true. May we see the redemption and the downfall of the wicked.